The other day I was reading in the Wall Street Journal. Well, it was several weeks ago. It was an article from July 17th. It was titled, China Plays a Big Role in U.S. Debt as Yields Fall. Now, obviously, you can kind of tell that just from the headline that's going to be bad news in China owning a large portion of our debt. The article went on to say of how China controls about $1.27 trillion in America's debt and about 10.6% of the entire U.S. Treasury market. China's purchased over $107 billion in Treasury holdings just this year. That got me thinking. What happens if China calls in all this money that we owe them? We can't afford to pay it. We have no choice. We would have to default. Now, every once in a while you hear someone say, oh, well, the U.S. should just default on its debt. Everything would be fine. No, it wouldn't be. Default would be a huge disaster to our economy and our lifestyle. What would happen? First off, goods would skyrocket in price. I don't even want to know how much it would cost. It would probably cost well north of $200 just to fill up your car with gas. The housing market would crash again, just like it did in 2008. Because whenever we would default, the dollar would lose its status as a reserve currency of the world. And that's what's keeping America in such a high place right now. We can just print more money and we'll be fine. Well, okay, that can only go so far until your debt's called and you can't afford to pay. What are you going to do? Just inflate your way out of it? That's what post-World War I Germany did, and look what happened to them. Adolf Hitler ended up running the country. What caused Germany's economy to crash after a prosperous 1920s? Well, I hate to say it, but I'm going to quote Hitler himself. He said that once the American market crashed, Germany would have no way of repaying the debt that they owed to America. Well, guess what happened in 1929? The American market crashed. America called in the money that the German banks owed them. The banks couldn't afford to pay them back. Germany goes into a depression. Now, it wasn't the kind of depression that we saw. This was far worse. Not only did they suffer from extremely high unemployment rates, they also suffered from hyperinflation. Germany had to print their way out of money. Businesses weren't accepting the German currency anymore. What would happen if you go down to the baker and try to buy a loaf of bread and you had all this money and the baker would simply say, I don't want your money, but that's a nice coat you have there. It became a bartering economy. All the money that you might have stocked up in investments and all these other things, in case of an American default, would be worthless. You lose everything. It's hard to talk about this because it's scary. I mean, that's all that. It's just flat out scary. It's just one of those things that you don't even want to fathom. Riots would break out because if China called in debt and America defaulted, we'd have no choice but to go to the IMF or World Bank and to request a loan. What would this loan entail? Sure, they'd give us the money. I mean, that would be pretty much a given. I mean, this is America after all. But what kind of stipulations would there be? Austerity measures? Definitely. What would the result of these austerity measures be? There's already rioting going on in the streets right now near my hometown over in Ferguson, Missouri, because a cop killed an unarmed 18-year-old who had come to find out, had a previous arrest record. The shops are being looted just because of that. Imagine, if you will, a post-default America. Can you imagine all the riots that would be going on? It would be horrible. The American economy would collapse. Let that sink in for a moment. Unemployment rates I could easily see soaring up to 60% 5% at least. A worthless currency. We'd have to be walking everywhere because we wouldn't be able to afford to fill up our tanks with gas. But then again, would you even want to leave your home because there's so much rioting going on? America would lose all her world influence. Well, maybe not all, but definitely a good portion of it. It's a nightmare scenario, but it's one that we had to prepare for. And how do we prepare for a possible American default? Well, the simplest answer is just to cut spending. And not a wimpy cut in growth in spending like of what they've done recently. No, I mean true cuts. I remember a while back I was watching John Stossel, and he said that he supports bringing meat cleaver to the budget. Is that the right thing to do? I think it is. We have little to no choice right now, but to bring a meat cleaver to the budget. Would it hurt? Yes, it would. You can't doubt that. But it would hurt a hell of a lot less than if we would allow ourselves to go into default because China's buying up all of our debt and we can't afford to pay them back. What about all the other countries? What about the bondholders in our own country? They'd be out money too if we defaulted. We have to cut spending. Now, where do we start cutting spending? First off, we just have to start managing our money better. That's a given. Cut government waste for the love of God. What about the social programs? Part of FDR's New Deal was the CCC. It was welfare, but the people had to work for the money. Now, granted, the main argument against a new CCC is that, oh, the unions won't allow it. Well, do you know what? Screw the unions. They've already made Hostess shut down, and tell her I was glad that we didn't lose access to Twinkies or Ho-Hos, but it's not the point. It's not the point. What will happen if America defaults? I guarantee you it is worse than any of us can possibly imagine. Maybe it won't be. I hope I'm wrong. But a better idea, quite simply, is that we don't allow us to come anywhere near default. Cut spending, balance the budget, and save America. America has come back from a lot of very difficult times before. Pearl Harbor, 9/11, all the wars that we've been in, the Civil War. Hell, after the Civil War, we came back better than ever. America is the strongest nation that has ever been on this planet. Let's keep her that way. Let's use our intelligence to keep us from killing ourselves with debt. Don't allow the America haters to use debt as a weapon of mass destruction. Use common sense, spend money wisely, and don't waste it. It's not that hard. Will it hurt? Yes. But is it worth it in the end? Damn right.